And without further ado, if you've been here before, you know what we're doing next. If you're new, grab your remote and have your thumb on the play button, but don't press it yet because we're going to do that at the same time on the count of 3. Are we ready? Are you ready, Julie? 1, 2, 3.
I love that bit with the license plates. So
She typed her little itinerary. So cute.
And misspelled itinerary. It's funny how, here's Susie trying to be professional as a manager and, still has a little ways to go, like with the business cards.
Oh, I feel like Diana was telling me about this at one point. Diana, was that a real project at Bell?
Yeah.
Cool.
I think it's cool, but why does a computer need to know how to sing? We have humans for that.
It's the idea of it.
It's the technology to get a computer to make noise. So like we wouldn't be able to do this if like
Oh,
it's just yeah, it's just that.
that makes more sense to me.
This is like a thing that they do a lot with Abe, where where they mix his seriousness with just like absolute like goofy child. Like they do the this. This is a similar moment to when he's at the show at the very end of the show in the Catskills,
Yeah.
and he puts his hat on his head. You know, after like telling her to get in the car.
I need to get this record for my baby because I'm trying to potty train her. Oh, it's so hard.
The Elmo potty training video. Just saying.
We have an Elmo potty training book.
Oh my gosh, they've upgraded.
I think they have an actual toy with Elmo that comes with a little toilet, so you can go that route as well.
I need a Paw Patrol one.
This look on Midge, I am loving all the red. Yes.
I love Imogen's hat too. I like the green on her too. And I like her dress. Her very maternity dress.
I just look at some of these outfits and I just think, oh gosh, I bet they're so scratchy. All that stuff was wool, and I don't know. I can't wear wool.
But it looks so
It does
good.
look
It
good.
would be worth it.
And now our clothing style, I think we've regressed in clothing styles, I think, since the 60s.
I also didn't know then how great microfiber is.
Well, that's true too.
I love this scene.
But I think like we all looked much more put together back then than we do now.
This Model A looks like in incredible condition for being like 30 years old, though. So I'm surprised it runs so cruddy.
Well, if it hadn't been driven for a while, the engine might be a little scuffed
That's
up.
very true.
This
We have
moment seems familiar to me, so I feel like I must have walked in the room while Babsy was watching this, and I must have sat down and watched it because it's familiar to me.
Well, don't spoil it for Josie.
Oh, definitely remember that.
we have a Model A that had it's been converted to a tractor because back in like the 50s they sold kits to convert your old Model A. It's pretty cool. I've got some wedding pictures on it and stuff, and it still runs. But my father-in-law does a good job of keeping it running.
I know that street. I know it looks fake, but it's very real.
Really?
Oh yeah, that's a real street in the West
Yeah,
Village.
yeah, Diana, I was wondering if that myself, if that was Commerce.
It might be Commerce or a street nearby, but it's definitely in that neighborhood.
Yeah, Commerce, Barrow, one of those. St. Luke's Place, maybe. But yes, agreed. A real street.
It's so adorable. It's a small one too, so they didn't have to dress it very far.
I was worried about her saying this. I wonder if that's, that should be confidential.
Oh yeah, that could be
And I
confidential.
and I have
That
absolutely no recollection of whether that comes back to bite her or not. But I would think that something like that sounds like it might.
totally.
Does anybody actually ever put their clothes like in those dressers and stuff? They always just live in the suitcase, unless it's like a dress or something that I hang in the closet. But I would never stick stuff in like in those.
I do when I go to Hawaii. That way I don't have to dig through my suitcase all the time. Or jail.
That nightgown looks like a dress. It's a little bit fancy. That was a lot of coins. What else did she put in there?
Oh, long distance.
I
Wow.
I guess I only ever remember putting in a quarter. But long distance, you had to put in multiple. I didn't. I don't remember doing that. I only ever called home.
I do like this weird relationship that Joel and Susie have.
It sounded mobstery.
This is a different episode. This does feel like tonally very different. I think it's because it has a little bit of a buddy, like a buddy comedy feel to it.
Maybe hadn't thought about that sort of, Bing and Bob kind of thing, or Road to Morocco.
Pink driving clubs, but she can't drive.
There are, there are aspects to the Midge character that are very reminiscent of Lorelai, and that particular thing seems like something Lorelai would do. Buy pink driving gloves to drive.
That's true.
Yeah, Lorelai was all about the cute outfits, huh?
Yeah, like exactly, like accessorizing things that don't really need to be accessorized.
Or the fancy hammer that she gave Rory to take to the Habitat for Humanity building.
Except Midge predates Lorelai. Midge has been a time before Lorelai. Let's remember that.
Still the same writer, though.
Truth.
This episode wasn't written by either of the Paladinos.
Yeah, it was Kate Fodor or Fodor. I don't know how you say her.
Yeah, but I'm sure it passed through Amy's pen.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. Everything did. I don't know why, but I don't love her black gloves and black dress and pearls look.
And that's been her standard stand up act since she started.
Yeah, I don't love that look for her.
I liked her in that. Was she wearing like a burgundy turtleneck dress? Like it looked like a kind of knitted or something.
Well, she wears that little like she's a little bit more dressed down for the gaslight, but when she's on stage at any other stage, she plays Mrs. Maisel. You
Yeah.
can tell like it's a different feel.
Yeah, and
Well, I thought it was
that's how she will get recognition. I mean, that's her signature thing, and that's
Right.
probably part of what
That
they'll.
was a gross joke.
That giant stain on that bed is disgusting. Whatever that is.
Yeah, they should just sleep in the car.
Susie snores.
Susie sounds like a bear trying to break in. Did I die?
It was
I
so funny.
love it.
like I said, Kendra. When you said you loved this episode, I was like, yeah, I can see a few things that Kendra might like.
It's interesting, but the basic hotel or motel features have not really changed in 50 odd years.
I want to go in a diner like that someday. I think there's some in like PA and stuff.
There's one by my house that looks exactly like that.
I've been in a couple, but I can't recall where they were. I have no clue.
Yeah, I'm certain I've driven past one. I think there's one in Pittsburgh. It's not that far. I should try to go sometime.
You mean like the old rail car style diners?
Yeah, we have one right by my house. I'll go and take a picture of it later.
Yeah, we have a couple around here too. One of them was in the movies The Mighty Ducks. Very famous diner.
Susie's
So
face.
gross.
I love it. Nancy, is the diner you're talking about Silver Diner?
No, it's find it. Hold on, it's not this.
Well, Silver
We have
Diner,
Silver Diner too.
Virginia, near DC, and it's very similar.
Yeah,
But
there's one that's older.
that's ersatz. It's made to look like that, and it actually doesn't look like that.
Yeah,
Um, n- there's one in Arlington.
there's
Is
one in
Kristen on
Fairfax
this?
on Lee Highway. Hold
Oh
on, let me
yeah.
find the.
That's very true about babies at that age. She put like calamine lotion on it. Looks pink. This is a good song. Old what's his name?
Oh,
Nelson.
I love this song.
Ricky Nelson.
Yeah, this is very much a buddy comedy road like a road trip buddy comedy.
It's Smokey and the Bandit. I don't know
It's
like
very
that.
Smokey and the Bandit. It's very Smokey and the Bandit.
I love road trip movies so much.
What's the one where they're all like on a in a great race, like across? They're all trying to like there's different
The
cars
one,
and they're all trying to. What's that
the
movie?
one
Rat
with
Race or something? Is it Rat
Rat
Race?
race.
Rat
No.
Yes, rat race.
Race.
Rat Race.
Yes.
The guy, uh, lots of good players. John Cleese, I
Mr. Bean is in that one. Oh, Rose's dress. Love it.
Blatz was the my dad didn't drink beer at all, other than when he mowed his lawn. But like after mowing the lawn, but he always drank Blatz. Good old man beer.
Wait, Shelly, were you talking about Cannonball Run though?
Oh, Cannonball Run. Maybe that's the one I'm
That's the
thinking
one
of.
you were
There's
talking
Oh,
about.
different. There's two. There's two. There's a
I
couple of
mean, if
them,
you were
right?
thinking of Burt Reynolds, that's what you were talking about, I think.
yes.
Is it like where they're doing like a where they're trying to go cross country and
Yeah.
get to something? Yeah.
Those are great movies.
This episode of The Twilight Zone being spoiled.
Oh, this episode of The Twilight Zone is one of my
It's so
favorites.
good.
That part is so sad because life goes on without her, and she just realized it.
Shelley, when we were talking about this episode, didn't you say that the Civil War Museum wasn't yet open in 1959?
Oh yeah, I think I read that it opened didn't open until 2001.
I was thinking when I rewatched this episode before this watch that in a way it kind of an interesting contrast with say the Hep Alien tour.
There's a lot of talk about dying in this episode.
Yeah, it's just some of it's just a little bit depressing, and I think this is part it kind of maybe makes you sums up the whole, makes you think the whole episode's that way, but it's not really.
But it's true though that all the scenes like before they head out on the road are all bright and cheerful colors and everything, and then they're on the road and everything's kind of shades of brown and green and kind of drab. And Imogene's baby shower, back to color. Yeah, now they're back to brown.
That's a good look for her too. I like that look a lot.
Run into Joel.
Wow. I was just noticing, even though Midge looks all road worn and bedraggled, her purse still matches her sweater.
I really wanted Susie to kick him in the nuts. I was so disappointed in her.
Yay, Joel.
Just realizing that clips were not turned off.
You can delete it later. Can't you?
I absolutely would have done the same thing Rose did.
Oh, I do like this
Seriously.
episode.
Yeah, it's got a good song at the end.
Heck yeah, it's the Strokes.
How about
Not
that
just the
speech?
song. I just
How
like
about
the
that
episode.
speech Joel made about being in the family business? That was a bit ironic.
Whoever expected Joel to be the hero, right?
That's right, or the heavy. He's not exactly, well, Benjamin Ettenberg.
And I like that he asked Susie if she was okay, even though he has that weird love hate relationship with her, or like hate.
Well, he can tell how important Susie is to Midge, and
Yeah.
so I think he's he'll, if he's not coming around, at least there's a grudging respect there.
I got a message from Mandy during that scene. It said, I am a fan of Joel in this episode. She's warming up to him.
Speaking of coming around, maybe maybe a few more episodes. And
Yeah, but what about, that they're saying in a man's world sometimes you have to like get a man involved. So someday, maybe they won't have to do that, but
Yeah. It's unfortunate she had to do that, but it's good that he was willing to come do that for her.
That's a really good connection to the title. Was it? Oh, was it mentioned?
no,
I'm
no, I
sorry, I
think that's
missed.
the only time they said someday.
Oh,
I think
okay.
that's it. So,
But I
so
think
yeah, I'm
it
pretty sure that's
stands
what it
for
said.
it stands for all the ways they want things to be different someday, like
Yeah,
not
for
staying in
sure.
hotels that give you
Yeah.
welts.
Yeah, and someday they'll have decent transportation, and someday they won't have to play, shitty clubs, and
Someday,
there's so many somedays in the
someday, someday, Abe's speaking computer will allow people to get into rooms together and watch shows
Oh my!
simultaneously.
There's a meta force happening right now.
Right?
John, is
I
this
was
mean
gonna
that
say
someday
or
some people?
or even just someday millions of people around the world will be able to um, listen to a singing computer playing the marvelous Mrs. Maisel.
Hopefully, it doesn't mean someday Josie will have a lot of sailor talk in her vocabulary.
She can't hear the episodes, but she's not with me anymore. But still, I always have my headphones on. So
That's good. That's good.
I
Yeah.
was gonna say
Does
someday the Holland Tunnel won't make someone late, but that day has not come yet.
oh no.
So
No, definitely
It's
that
still
Someday,
it's
definitely
funny.
has
I
not.
have
someday.
memories as a kid visiting my grandparents and us going into the city or out of the city and being stuck in that tunnel. And I was thinking, is that a thing anymore?
Oh, it's totally a thing.
Oh, it's a thing, I'm
Yes, it's
sure,
a
right?
thing.
it's
Holland
never
Tunnel.
not gonna be a thing unless we
Yeah.
like start flying our cars. I mean, across the river, then maybe then. But
And then the George Washington Bridge is also a thing, and getting stuck across that too.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Hol- yeah. I mean, Holland Tunnel is the number one reason why I won't fly into Newark Airport unless I absolutely have to.
oh, same. I was wondering. It looked really realistic. I was wondering if they shut down the Holland Tunnel to like film this episode.
Yeah, you're right. It does look like the actual Holland Tunnel.
Because I would have been pissed at that if I had to get across.
Yeah, I
That would have been
mean,
really bad.
if they did that, there were probably New Yorkers plotting the Paladinos murders.
Oh, and New Jerseyites willing to carry it out. So
Well, every
Yes.
year they have a marathon through the tunnel, which is kind of cool, but it does shut down the tunnel for a good part of a day.
Yeah, the
It
New
would
Jersey people are the mob capital of the world too. Sometimes, so there's a lot of mob people.
yeah,
it would be interesting to know whether they coordinated with a planned shutdown like that, because you wouldn't. It's not like we saw the entire length of the tunnel. They really only needed um to film about, I don't know, 3 car lengths or something, but on all the what am I trying to say? All the lanes. So um for all we know, I don't know. I mean, maybe it wasn't that long of a shutdown.
Wouldn't it be funny if they were like, there's always traffic anyway, let's just film while there's traffic?
Right, but and all of a sudden they're with these futuristic cars from, from the 2000s,
But they
and
can
not the
edit that
model.
stuff out. I mean, I think they can edit out the futuristic cars. I think
yeah. Does
possibly.
anyone else want to come up on the couch? Nope. Guess it's just us.
Well, it's funny because I didn't fully remember what this episode was about, and I thought it started a little bit on the slow side for me, but I really liked it in the end. Um, even
Oh,
though it's
I
a lot
enjoyed
different
this
from the
episode.
last few that we saw. Yeah. And they lost their license plate with a horse at the gas station.
Oh,
So
that was the U. So they put she put a Utah one on because she told um Bootsy to or what's his name? No, that's not his name. Is that his name? No,
Jackie.
that's not his name.
Oopsie, worlds
Jackie.
colliding.
Yeah, what's his name in here?
Jackie.
Yeah, that okay. Yeah, she said, "Oh, lose the Wyoming one,"
Oh,
and I'm not
Yeah,
really
he
sure
threw
why
it in
they
okay.
the
did it.
garbage.
Yeah,
She didn't want the horse on her car.
yeah, and I'm really wondering about like that. Um, well, they had so that Bell Labs thing. So then I was thinking, oh, they had that recorded about her saying that. About the singing computer, but then she recorded over it anyway, so maybe it wouldn't be. I just really don't have any recollection of what's to come if there's that's ever mentioned again. But I I did think that that was going to definitely be like oh something that would come back and bite her. Probably even when I originally watched it, but I don't remember what happens.
So going back to Jackie, the character that played him passed away in November of 2019. So I think he was able to film through season 3, correct?
I think so.
Because we see him in season 2, and so season 3 would have come out like 2019, correct?
Yeah, it's been a long time since season 3.
Yes,
Yeah, cause,
season 3 started in 2019 in December and it ended in 2020. Or
but
no,
they
it was all dropped in December, but
right, but they would have filmed it
Yeah, I think you're right.
prior.
yeah.
Right. Okay. So season 4 is the first season we won't see him in there, probably. Okay.
So watching this, you got to wonder, like, when will be touring on the road get better? Like, where they'll be able to start staying in better places and maybe actually making some money because that does not look like a fun road tour, in my opinion. The way they have to live off stage.
Yeah, I think Midge had a reckoning in this episode.
Definitely.
She knows she's going to have to pay her dues. But, you know, when she was on the phone, it's been 2 days. They've already forgotten me. And just every possible thing that can go wrong goes wrong. And she misses the baby shower, and her kids don't miss her. And she's disappointing her family. And I think internally, she is thinking at this moment, is this worth it?
Right.
Like,
Is it the
Does
I've
she
right
want to
left.
thing?
quit? Does she want to quit?
Yeah, yeah.
But remember what she said at the end of last episode. She said, I mean, they came back to New York. She said, I want to be big, the biggest thing out there. And I think that this episode is sort of illustrative of what that decision really, or what that announcement or confirmation really means in reality, that it's going to be the worst you could possibly think of. But I think that I'm thinking about the horrible motel that they stayed in, and to her credit, she didn't pull out. She it's like she knows she has to do this. I think she didn't pull out a wad of cash. It would not have taken a lot of money back then to go to an even cleaner hotel. Um, but she knew that staying there was you know I don't know why she made that decision, because I feel like somebody like Midge would have carried some money for just in case.
I'm sure her dad didn't give her money for this kind of stuff. I mean, she's literally
Yeah,
relying on her
she's kind of
parents right
broke
now.
right now.
Yeah, I guess I just yeah, it's just I maybe it's one of those things that
And they didn't have credit cards, right? Did the
right
women
now
have
I
credit
know.
cards yet? No.
Yeah, it's one of those things that would have been solved in modern times by other means.
Well, it's definitely interesting because she knows other people have been on the road, but they obviously had not told her what kind of places you might end up staying in and how things can go. But they also, being the two women, are kind of with not a lot of money at all, have to struggle through this. But I don't think I even would have stood in that room all night that she was in. It was- She's like, I'm just going to stand here. I would have gone back out to the car.
I did forget to point out the Amish buggy when they were in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
It was
I
in the
noticed
background.
that.
I thought that was funny because it was just such a background bit, but they
I
had like the whole, you know, like when you have an animal on set, like you have to like do the whole thing, you know? I just thought it was funny that they committed to it.
And it was during her speakerphone call, so that you know
yeah.
not
I love that
so that
speakerphone. That was so cool. I remember looking when I first watched that. I remember looking that up and trying when did speakerphones come out and that sort of stuff because I was like, oh, that's interesting. I never even thought about them using those funny little like a little horn thing.
Oh, I thought Abe made that, but maybe I'm wrong. I for some reason
Oh
I thought
no,
he put
I
that.
think that I think that's a real thing.
Well, and it would make sense that Abe has one, you know, like maybe not every family had one, but it makes sense that Abe would.
well, they trotted it out in the season 1 when they were talking to
Oh, right.
the
Yeah.
yeah, Shirley and Moisha, and they were so proud of it. But I think it was an actual thing they purchased, but it was probably purchased at quite a high price because it was such a specialized piece of equipment back then, I imagine. And so the maybe the fact that Abe is doing this other thing, that it is more normalized or something.
According to the internet, the
Erickson
first, yes,
in the
1930.
30s.
Holy cow.
Did everybody get quiet, or is it just me?
Yes.
Okay,
I
because I just was like,
really,
oh, sometimes my sound goes out, and I'm like, am I not getting anything? Just
That
in case.
happens to me once in a while too, Shelley. So I was kind of wondering the same.
I know I'm a little bit on the fringe here, but I really like that episode. I laugh more during that episode, mostly at Susie and just the catastrophes that occur than a lot of other episodes. And I also think I like it because it is kind of dark and gritty and
And they
not as
highlight
bright and
Susie more.
cheerful.
I think they highlight
Yes.
Susie a little bit more here too.
And that's
In
why I
some,
love it so much.
it's
Precious little Susie
and they
is so funny in
yeah
her
they
own right. She is comedic.
yeah I
I
think I
really
like
like
when
this
they
one too. I mean, I not because of necessarily the tone of it so much. I really enjoyed it because it was just very different than all the other ones, and I think it's kind of funny to watch Susie and Midge fight over things, but yet they still are good friends. Kind of, they're not letting it get to their friendship. They just fight and they move on.
And this maybe gives us some look at if they did do even a better tour. They've never spent this much time alone together up until this
Right,
point. Like they spend a lot
24/7.
of time together, but not like this. So they're really getting to know each other right
Like
now.
the snoring.
Yes. And Midge
That was
just
pretty funny.
her incessant talking before bed.
Oh,
That's
her
me.
fireman
That's me.
jokes.
That's what I do. I like to come into the bedroom like late at night, and I'll just start talking to my husband who's asleep about anything, whatever's going on.
I'm the same way, Shelly. I'll just be like, hey, what are you doing? Are you still asleep? Wake up. Let's talk a little bit. Come on. Have a conversation with me.
Oh, my little sister used to do that. She would wake me up so I would talk to her, and I wanted to murder her.
I'm pretty sure I did that in my childhood bedroom too. With I shared a room with my three older sisters, and I'm pretty sure I did that to them constantly.
Okay, you guys. So why did I think that Midge knew how to drive a car, and I learned in this episode that she doesn't? For some reason, I thought she would know, but I guess I should have known better because she's a city girl who always took the subways, cabs, or whatever. But
Yeah, I mean
Diana,
Yeah,
for
she
I
some
mean,
reason,
I mean she walks everywhere.
I know, but for
it,
some reason, I thought she'd know
We've
how to
never
drive a
seen her.
car.
We've never seen her drive a car. Like everything we've seen is her just like walking down the street, walking down the sidewalk, walking in and out of shops. You know, she just walks.
I know, and that's why I'm surprised. Why did I think she knew how to drive a car? It's like for some reason I thought she could just do everything. It's Midge Maisel.
she's the marvelous Miss Maisel. And like she was married. I'm sure Imogen can't drive. Like it's they just didn't try.
She's married and she lives in the city and she's a woman, and I think back in the 50s you didn't need to drive. You know, they walked, they had public transportation, or they had somebody to do it for them, like they took a cab or whatever. But yeah, they didn't need to. Yeah, because when they were going to the nightclub, they took a cab to the Gaslight, her and Joel, in the beginning. So they didn't need to drive anywhere. They lived in the city. You don't drive in the city unless you.
I know. Diana's told me that. She's explained to me why she doesn't have to drive anywhere, but I don't know. For some reason, I just was kind of
well,
surprised by
because
that.
I think you would probably think maybe she would be just because she's kind of a feisty character and that that's something that she would want to learn how to do. But
Yeah.
that's kind of what you would almost maybe think that she would have wanted to, but
Well, and I'm sure if they didn't live in the city, she would have. Like if they had moved to, like Queens
Jersey or
or
something.
something. Yeah, like I'm sure she would have. Because a lot of women in the 50s learned to drive when they moved to the suburbs for sure. But yeah, I mean, her whole neighborhood is right where she lives. So like yeah, she walks everywhere. Or we've seen her on the subway. We've seen her taking cabs. Yeah. I'm who knows if like Joel can even drive? I mean, we're not really sure.
One of my older sisters has never learned to drive. She just doesn't want to, doesn't think it's necessary. She has no interest in it. And she was born in the 50s.
My
Oh.
grandmother, my grandfather told my grandmother if she wanted to learn how to drive, she was going to have to teach herself. So she went out, started the car, and, well, she was in the garage and she put the car in reverse instead of drive, and she went out the back of the garage. And my grandpa said, "Nope, you're not ever getting in a car behind a wheel again." And that was probably in the 50s. So, yeah.
So, Julie and Shelley, what were your favorite things about the episode in general?
I think I like their camaraderie. They're like John said, that kind of buddy humor driving. That's just that did remind me of those older movies, and I don't know. It was funny, and there was a lot of funny little bits in there about, like, I thought the snoring was funny, and I thought um the part about the bed bugs or whatever was funny, and um the different things, but it kind of had turned dark, and it was just kind of a little bit depressing, and I think that the ending, I have mixed feelings about how, like, Joel came to her rescue. Like, I like that Joel did that, but I also, yeah, wish that that hadn't happened, and that Susie or she could have stood up for herself, and that's just unfortunate.
I remember the first time I watched it, I knew she was calling someone. I was hoping she was calling Lenny because, if Lenny Bruce walks in the joint, he could destroy them, that club, because he is a very well-known, respected, well, he was respected, controversial, but very respected.
Yeah, but I like how Joel came to help her because she knows that even though they're splitting up, they're getting divorced or whatever they are at in their relationship, that he still supports what she's trying to do. And that's the reason why he didn't want to get back together with her the last time she did, because he wants her to go out there and succeed. And so she knows she can rely on him to support her in this touring and trying to become a comic thing. And it's nice that he can be kind of like the backup for Susie and her. I mean, it would be nice if she could have gotten the money herself, but it might have been a little unrealistic for them to write it that way into the show at this time, because I don't think it really would have happened. Because I feel like in this case they did need him to do that for them.
Yeah, and I really like how he came, did did what did what Midge needed him to do, and then simply offered her a ride home. Like, he didn't use it as a, like, the show didn't use it as a way to, like, get them sort of back together, quote unquote, like, it wasn't like he wasn't playing a hero. He was just sort of like, all right, you need some muscle, great, I'll be the muscle, fine. Need a ride home? No, cool, okay. Like, it was just very like, it was like sort of a true support, a true friendship, versus like, let's use this as a way to, like, create a moment between them. And it just wasn't. It was just like, hey, I need some help. Okay, great, I'll help you.
Yeah, like a friend coming through for a friend, not somebody who's trying to get his wife back.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Although I guess I thought the episode was sad because I think Midge is coming to the realization and then that she can't have it both ways. And when I say that, I don't mean just, it's as a result of her choices. I mean, she, at the beginning of the series, of course, she wasn't thinking about being the comic herself. She was supporting her husband and, I think she's realized that either, she can, host baby showers, have this great Upper West Side life, or she can be a comic and, go on crappy
Learn how to.
tours through infested motels. I mean, I think it's interesting that here in this her last stand-up routine in this episode, she's in New York. She even invited her father. No one comes to see her.
Yep, that's true.
You know, I
That
mean, she
part is a
can't
little
have
sad.
it both ways. That's not saying that she's made some bad choice or something. It's more that she can't have it both ways. And then she comes home, and then she's got to clean up from the baby shower she didn't get to go to.
Will she always not be able to have it both ways, or is this just part of the journey that at this stage of her journey she can't have it both ways?
Guess we're
Oh,
gonna have to wait and see.
yeah, I guess that's why the episode's called Someday.
Right,
Well,
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
also, you can't
Balancing a life and a career is, that's still a struggle for every every female that ever worked.
yeah, I mean, you
Yeah.
can't actually be in
Amen.
two places at once. Like, she
Right.
can't be at the baby shower and on tour in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Like,
Yeah,
it's
but
just not going to
yeah, but I would also argue that part of it is that her life is split right now because she's just starting out. But when your life starts to transform, then very often your life just changes into something new that is really only consumed by that one side. So I would argue that the more that she takes this path towards being a comic and the success that might come with it, the more that that other part of her life will start to become like she won't, like, baby showers will exist, might only exist in aspects of her life that are accommodating to that new life. Like, I mean, there are probably aspects that she's always going to have to compromise to a degree, but I think right now what she's fighting against is her old life versus this new life that she wants. And if she is successful and she gets this new life, it will come with all kinds of new priorities that will allow her that she'll be able to do because it will fit within that world. Does that make sense?
I think so.
Well, I
I
mean,
mean,
I
it
it's
think it's
makes
sadly what I'm kind of saying is you you lose old friends as you move into new areas, and you get new ones that actually you can accommodate within this world.
like she's
yeah,
standing on a
or
line, like she's standing in
Yeah,
between two
like for
worlds.
example, yeah, like right now, exactly, like right now, she's like prioritizing finding this new life versus going to this shower with her old friend. What you often see happening is when you achieve that new life, the old friends just sort of aren't really there anymore. They don't they're you know they it's just harder to bring them into your day to day. And new friends within this new life become a priority, and they're easier to accommodate because they're within that new life.
So, like, maybe if one of her comedian friends was going to be having a baby, she could fit the baby shower in because it's part of the new life versus going back to the traditional married
Yeah,
life
That's
type
exactly what I'm.
friends.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. Like if she like met a comic and that comic was having a baby shower, it would probably be easier because it would be within that world and all of that, right? Whereas like what she's fighting against is a new world that she's entering and an old world that still has responsibilities for her. But the new world and that old world, they don't really mesh. They don't work together. And so she has to decide between which world she wants to go into. If she moves fully into this new world, she's going to actually have to cut off ties with the old world. Like not maybe not like in a formal way, but she's just not going to be there as much. And that's just something that you see all the time when people make huge life changes. You know, move to a new location, or like that, enter into a completely new career. You find new friends, you find, new routines, new rhythms that just don't really mesh. It isn't to say that you don't keep in touch with the old world, but the same kinds of responsibilities that the old world expects of you, those seem to evaporate.
And then she's got the divorce on top of that, where she's doing the same thing. She's losing some of those friends or those connections because, either they don't. I don't know. People just when you go through a divorce, I think there's certain people that just start disassociating with you for some reason. That's just natural.
No, that's absolutely true. I mean, usually in a divorce, the friends get divided up along with everything else. But I also wanted to mention we were talking about, the old life versus the new life. I mean, you look at like Sophie Lennon, and you go to Sophie's house, and there's besides Sophie, there's nobody else there but the servants.
Oh, like, I mean, that's a really great example of what I'm talking about. It's like, yeah, you wonder, like, what happened to, did she have a life before she became famous? Who were all the people that surrounded her, that she was surrounded by? They all, if there were, they all seem to be gone.
Yeah, like it's just her agent and her and the butler. Is
She
that what
seemed
you're
like a kind of nasty woman though. Like,
Yeah, she may
Oh
not have
yeah, I
had a
mean
lot,
damaged
but
person,
still,
right?
but
Not a
still,
victim, but still.
but still, she may have had, whether they liked her or not, she may have been surrounded by a different type group of people back then that were expecting different things from her. Now she's, I certainly don't expect that's Midge's fate, but I do think that that's a part of making these big life changes, is that they come with letting go of relationships and responsibilities of your old life, and you get these new responsibilities and new relationships that mesh well with your new life, that you have an easier time being able to uphold. And I think that's what's happening right now. She's straddling. She's on that line between her new life that she's striving for, and this old life that doesn't have anything to do with it, but that still sees her as the old Midge and still expects her to live up to her responsibilities as the old Midge.
I think Joel would be her connection because he is supporting her new life, but he's also part of her old life. And I also think Midge would have a different type of new life than Sophie would, because I think about Sophie, she doesn't want people to know what she's really like. She wants them to see her as her character on stage. So, like, so maybe her, like, being kind of isolated in a way is that's how she keeps her image up for her comedy, and like she doesn't really have a way to mesh her worlds together if she's playing solely a bit. But maybe not. I don't know. But I think right now Joel's her connection between the two, and then her parents. And so I don't know. It's an interesting way to look at it though, John. I never really would have thought about it that way, except for that maybe that Imogen would eventually find a new best friend, and right now Susie's kind of Midge's best friend,
Yeah, I
and
mean,
yeah, they
look at look at it like that, right? Like Susie was just this like really like odd person that Midge would never fraternize with, and now Susie seems to be starting to become her best friend. Like we are sort of seeing this like new relationship budding between these two people, and simultaneously we're seeing this old best friend kind of being walked away from.
yeah. So
I
on
don't think that there's anything wrong with it. I'm just saying that that's the dynamic. That is usually what you see happen when people make big like changes, and specifically change like you know enter into a new world with completely new rules, new paradigm, everything. And that's what's happening to her here. Like everything about her life and world has completely changed. This new life is nothing like the old one.
and that makes
And so
sense.
it's going to require that she make new relationships that she cut ties with the old ones, like maybe not in any formal manner, but that those ties just that they just erode on their own.
It's
There was
almost like
there
her
wasn't
lunch.
Facebook back then to keep in touch with all these people just from. Go ahead,
Well,
Chris. Sorry.
I was just gonna say it's almost like her lunch with Imogen at the beginning of the episode was her unofficial um farewell in a way to their old style of friendship, because she's having this lunch at a place that's a new place for her that she goes to with her new best friend, and her old best friend thinks it's like this going to be this glamorous whatever kind of thing, and they're having lunch and they're doing their thing, and then after that lunch she forgets about the baby shower and she's off doing her thing with her new best friend. And it's kind of like you see out with the old and with the new in this episode, in that
Yeah.
way, especially the way you're describing it, John. It really
Yeah,
kind of
and she also is like, she's like can't believe, that Midge would say that
talk the way she talks, yeah.
about her breasts in front of this guy and talk, and then she's like worried, like, oh my gosh, you're not going to embarrass me at my bridal shower or at my baby shower. And these are things that Imogene never would have considered before. Now she's considering it, so she's already seeing Midge as a different person, and she's struggling with the fact that she may have already lost the Midge that she knew. I'm predicting that there's going to be a scene at some point in the series, probably later in the series, where these two meet on the street and they are cordial and it's uncomfortable, but they're more they both recognize they're more acquaintances now than they are friends.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. Like I'm sad for Imogene because, a year ago she was, like just starting to have kids, and and Midge's kids were a little bit older, so she probably had like fantasies of like, oh, this is great, like we'll both like have children together, and like, this will, we'll just continue on like with the plan of our lives, which is we'll be best friends forever and like raise our kids together, and like, and everything will be great. And I do love that diner scene in the first in the beginning, because she's so fascinated by her best friend's like new life, right? Like there's, oh, is that a celebrity? Is that somebody famous? Is that, she's sort of reaping the benefits as you would as a best friend who has a friend who like just became kind of famous, or like maybe is dabbling in that type of life. And I think it is really interesting that by the end she's sitting on the couch surrounded by people, but not that person, and
Mm.
it's really sad.
I think the other thing is that it's not even in favor of a new best friend necessarily, as Midge is her own new best friend, and she's it's a new Midge, and so it's that that schism between the old Midge and the new Midge, and that her new life is her. That's it's. I don't know if you want to say it like that, but her new life is her new best friend, or at least her new friend who she's devoting all of her energy to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I I would say that for me, I'd say that Susie is really taking Imogene's place.
I think Susie's good for Midge too. I just think that she brings her, I don't know, some reality about life because I think Midge has just been very spoiled her entire life, and just even like telling her, "I'm not carrying your bags up," because she even looked at her like, "Oh, are you going to get my bags for me?" I just think that that's kind of awesome that she's teaching her to just do stuff for yourself.
I gotta say, I like that scene where Abe's telling the story. Like he's trying to tell all the guys about this new show he's seen on TV, The Twilight Zone, which that is a good episode of The Twilight Zone. But it's just kind of funny. He didn't even want to answer the phone because he wanted to finish telling his story. And it's just, he's such a weird character, but fun at the same time, and sometimes really annoying. I go back and forth on how I feel about Abe. I love him, and then I'm like, oh, why is he so mean to Midge? But he's still funny. But he's too serious. I don't know. Am I making any sense to anybody at all?
I think if he were played by anybody but Tony Shalhoub, it might be it might be more negative, and we might
Not like him at all, right?
yeah, not like him as much. But because it's him, he has such an amazing way of just on that thinnest line between, like you said, annoying or
He's so quirky.
yeah, OCD and all that, the whole those are not toys, the lining up of the suitcases and trying to figure out which was the best angle on the shuffleboard, and just all of those things. If I just can't imagine anybody
Do
else
you think that that
playing that.
character was written for him? Like, I feel like it almost like had
Yeah,
to have
it
been.
feels like
Yeah.
it. Also, Tony Shalhoub has a particularly high voice for a man. He's got like just his natural speaking voice is high, which gives him this like when he's especially like when he's doing the kind of what like when he's stressed, when he's speaking with like kind of like a stress tone, he speaks like kind of like almost sounds a bit like a child, so he has almost like a boyish quality to him when he gets really stressed out. And I just love this whole thing that they're playing with Abe, where like he is like he's still a little boy. I mean, if you think about it, like the life that he lives, like his career is kind of, you know, it's kind of the career that it has like analogies to like a little boy playing with
His
things, like
dream
everything.
job, like a dream
Yeah,
job career.
his dream job. I mean, just in general, like he puts on this like air of I'm the patriarch and the serious head of the household, but everything he does is like he plays with toys. His like job is about like coming up with these like fantastical inventions that like nobody can even really believe actually exist. And I think that the writing really highlights those moments with these like little bits of comedy where he'll say something really serious and then the button on what he's saying is some just absolutely ridiculous childish moment, like putting the hat on or turning on the record. And I just think it's just brilliant writing, brilliant character development.
And he plays it so well. Like so well.
And he's
Yeah.
also, I mean, I have to say that in my mind, he is the typical of that time period, you know, Upper West Side, New York Jewish intellectual father. I mean, he's off on this plane where he kind of can tune out the whole rest of the world and gets very annoyed when he can't. Um, isn't practical, but he's still, I mean, it's the 1950s and he's supposed to be the man of the house. So there's definitely this frustration, why is everybody not doing what I want them to do so that I can focus on my great invention?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like that's how it plays to me too, is that he's such, he's an academic, which is a totally, like, that's different than other white collar jobs. He's definitely immersed in something like that could be very creative. And yeah, I think what you said is right, Julie, is that he's frustrated with the two things. Like, he is uh a a character of his time, but he's also an academic and a thinker and an intellectual, and it's New York City. And like, so he's definitely struggling, I think, with those two those two ideas. And I I like what you said. He's frustrated when he can't do the thing that he wants to do. He's um when he's trying to like I don't know, like in the Catskills, like trying to do his thing, and he gets, like drink his tomato juice or whatever, and it gets ruined in some way. I think that's a really funny
His
Abe
his
that we
almost
get to
tantrum
see.
style.
And
Yeah, oh, it's so good. It's so
Yeah.
and
good.
And when
and
he's complaining when
even his
Moish is on the phone, in the Catskills.
you're right. His play is serious. The he can't it's he's so focused and serious. And that maybe part of that is what makes him funny too. Is when somebody's really overly serious, it's funny. And I think that's one of the reasons he is so annoyed by Moisha, because Moisha is just the opposite of that. Just letting it all hang out. Like, Moisha is so blah 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 and um loud and airs all of his everything, for all to hear. Um and that lack of self-control is something that I think, self-control is something that Abe values above almost everything. And that life of the mind and that intellectualism and the cerebral kind of, lost in his thoughts. um and how, when these things happened and he's still sort of, reeling from them, those revelations, that that's when he really, gets upset and kind of lashes out. I did like the fact that he did sort of openly. I like the fact that he can talk to Midge now about comedy, because didn't he say something like early in the episode about, don't you have some bad joke to write or some profane I don't know.
Yeah, some
There was
foul mouth.
That's right. There was some line, and I really liked that, because it's just it just shows a really great um a glimpse into their relationship in general, um that he can find out about this and turn it around so that it's still part of his life with his daughter.
Yeah, because at the same time that that Midge is adjusting to change and her life changing, etc., he's having to adjust back. Wait a minute, my daughter's a stand-up comic, my son's in the CIA. What am I? What's going on? I mean, he's having a very hard time adjusting.
It's because he lost his control. Like, he thought he knew everything about his family, how things are gonna be. He had this like kind of perfect family kind of thing where everybody thought they were like the way everything should be, and everything was great, and it just kind of all fell apart for him. First, Midge gets separated from her husband, then he finds out his son is doing something he had no idea about, and he feels like a fool because his
And
coworkers
his
knew,
wife
or
was
his
unhappy.
managers.
His
Yeah,
wife
and his
ran off to
wife's
Paris.
unhappy. Yep, everything just like went down the toilet for him, and now he's got to figure out how to live with this new kind of idea of what his family is. I mean, he had to have been so embarrassed that he didn't know about his son, but his managers or his bosses did. And so and they had to take him into a special room with like four other people to show up just to tell him. So it's just, he feels kind of like, I think he feels in a way left out of things. And he finds out his daughter was arrested from someone else. He doesn't really know why still. It's just kind of the poor man.
Yeah, and then
Everything
he's
he thought.
also transitioning to that from like what Diana said, like he's an academic. There's definitely a difference when you switch from being years and years and years of working in a university than to going into industry. So that's a big transition for him too. And I imagine like with dealing with the people, that's it's just his quirkiness and everything is you know that would be noted around Bell Labs too. I'm sure that's not they when you work with people that's been working for a lot of years in that industry and learn that way are different than people that worked at the university studying. Just
And we don't know a ton about Abe and Rose's upbringing, but I imagine like you know, it this is 1959, and so when they were Midge's age and they were children, like, things weren't as peachy for the world. So I kind of feel like I always have a little sympathy for them because, the point that they're at now with two grown children who, ostensibly are taken care of, especially in the beginning. Midge has a husband who is taking care of her and her children, and everything's great, and they can just sort of live their lives and everything is settled down and looks like things are on the up and up, culturally in the country, like all that stuff. And so the fact that Midge chooses something completely different that actually could not mean that she's taken care of, just practically speaking. She's not married. She isn't really making any money. Um, and their son is working for the government, like, in sort of a really scary way. It's sort of probably not what they planned. It's not it's not the comfortable, sort of golden years they probably were looking forward to, or at least that might be the fear for Abe, is that, oh gosh, I have to worry about my adult children in these ways I really didn't, a year ago I didn't think I'd have to worry about them.
Yes, exactly what I was that's kind of part of what I was thinking. It's just I don't know. It would be interesting and scary to be Abe in that time, not really knowing what he thought he knew, and then seeing how things are different. But I don't know. Definitely a different time than it is now, isn't it? Looking back and watching what was considered a successful family life and all that kind of stuff. Did my clubhouse go out?
no, no.
Oh.
Is there
Oh,
anything else we want to? I started to unmute, and then my husband like moving our sliding glass door, and it's very loud. So I was just
okay.
wondering, is there anything else we wanted to touch on, or did we cover just about all of it?
I think it was pretty good, Shelley.
Yeah, it was good. I'm not going to say that this is my favorite episode
No?
because it wasn't, but I thought it was a great episode. It just wasn't my favorite. Uh, I definitely saw large parts of it because this must have been an episode where Babsy was watching it and I came downstairs and just sat down and maybe watched some of it or something because there were lots of parts of it that I remember very well. But I liked it. I just didn't. I wouldn't put it at my top right now.
I would know. I was expecting because I didn't remember, but I was as far as from last episode, like how it ended. I wanted to know what they all thought of um, Astrid being pregnant, and they didn't. That went away, and I am excited to hear what they say when they get back into town and that they start talking about that again.
I also liked how this episode showed um I I I like how it showed a different part of of their world. Um and in a different way from the Catskills, in a different way from New York City, even the seamier sides of New York City. Um and I think that that's what gave the
show at least part of its sort of alternate tone from what we've seen in other shows. It's the production design, just that grittier, not
Not always the pretty
glossy.
side.
Right, right.
But Midge still had matching purses.
Well, if we don't have anything else to say, we can close out. Or I think there's not anything until for another hour, but so I can keep the room open if you want, or we can close it out if you guys want to continue to talk. But
Well, I
I
just
think
want to say thanks, Shelley and Julie, for hosting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
thanks
You're
so
welcome.
much,
Thank you.
guys.
you're welcome.
We're back tomorrow at 9 a.m. For another episode. And then Tuesday, and then on Thursday we begin. Wait, Thursday is it? Are we watching one on Thursday? No, we what?
you said we're watching.
Oh no,
You said
Saturday. I was
No,
thinking of
Saturday,
Buffy
Saturday,
on
Saturday. No,
Thursday.
but Buffy's Thursday. No, we're no, it's we're watching one tomorrow. Then we're watching one on Tuesday, and then we're watching. Then we're beginning season 3 next Saturday at 9 a.m.
That was my
Sorry
Is
for
it
the
still
confusion on that.
is it still Tuesday, Saturday, Sunday until
Until Maisel
premiere?
until
Yeah.
premiere, yeah,
Okay.
exactly. And premiere, I believe, is on a Friday, I think, right?
The 18th, yeah.
Yeah. So lots of stuff, lots of stuff. But thank you, Shelley, Julie, and I'm gonna head out. I will see all of you on the discords in the clubhouses, and hopefully all tomorrow at 9 a.m.
Yeah, and later today I'm hosting the watch of the Catskills documentary of the last
Oh
resort.
yeah, that's right.
So gives a little bit of context to
Pictures.
the Catskills vacation
Nice.
What
Pictures.
time is that at, Diana?
at 5 p.m. Eastern.
Awesome.
Cool.
that sounds good. I'm looking forward to that. I think I'm gonna
It's really
check
good.
it out
It's
and
pretty.
That
watch.
should cleanse my mind after watching Midnight Mass.
Well, thank you all for
Yeah.
All right,
for your
guys.
session.
Have a good
Thanks very
day.
much. Yep.
Have a great
Okay.
one.
Bye,
Bye.
Thank
everyone.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.